Welcome to Sculpture Studios. For our first video project of 2017, we're creating a run of small-scale tornado fighter jets. After the success of the miniature Spitfires for the Kings Lynn Arts Trail, we're working once again with Pauline Petch, the squadron leader of the 42-founder Kings Lynn Air Training Corps. The Spitfires were a big hit around the town, so now Pauline's back with their latest commission. We've been asked to make a production run in glass fibre of these jets, to be decorated by various schools, charities and sponsor companies, to then be auctioned off at the end of the event. Much like the Spitfires, we're starting off with a run of say 10 to 15, with Pauline getting more and more sponsors on board, so this number will increase as we move through the project. We begin by simplifying the design of the tornado for 3 reasons. One, so that these will be easier to paint, as they won't include the full arsenal and all the really fine parts, but also to make it easier for us to create, and therefore reducing the cost for the client, which is the important thing. The retractable wings will be made in the fixed open position, and all of the overall dimensions are made accurate to the blueprints. The main bulk of the bodies being carved from polystyrene, with wooden slats to act as supports throughout the wings. To answer some of the popular questions, the polystyrene is being joined using a squirty polyurethane expanding foam, and after we have the shape we're looking for, the polystyrene is then covered in a water-based plaster filler. This is a household product that you can buy from home DIY construction stores and comes in a large tub that you can spread on thin by hand and then sand back once it's air dried. This allows you to create a smoother surface and get rid of that poly bead texture.
Here we are, the polystyrene aeroplane so far. There's a lot of discipline involved, measurements and just checking the whole size of it. That's 1 metre 200 long total. Nice thing about being a sculptor is I've got 4 boys myself, and I could actually make them presents at Christmas and birthdays and things like this. Now normally they have a present from Father Christmas, but then the dad could make them something as well. So have a look at some of the presents I've made them before as they were growing up. It's a bit off topic, but it is a family business after all. I know the boys certainly like them and used to play with them all the time. And it was also nice seeing them play with something which I actually made instead of shot ball. Got Liam in here?
Yep.
So he's got 300 on there yet? Ready? Step back and forward. That was a stick. That's not good.
We've just had that today and we're just playing it. Because last year he made a pinball for us. We're getting better, aren't we?
You will get better. I bet you start sort of learning how to do it. You try different techniques of doing it. Hey, come on boys, you finished that game yet?
No, I haven't had a turn yet.
Come on, bedtime lads. Oh, Dad.
They're getting back to the aeroplane. Put thick coats of plaster and different colours of emulsion paints on top, and I can rub it back. It's called obliteration paint. That means it's got no glue in there, so when I sand it back, it actually comes off quite dusty. I'm going over and over again, and I'm going to slowly add detail to the actual plane itself and small decoration, but just small amounts. So when we take a mould off it and cast it, it's not going to be too difficult to actually cast.
Here we have the finished master pattern, all sanded back and smooth, and now it's ready for mould making. Like the Spitfires, we're going to be creating this mould in 2 halves, the top and the underside. But for this plane, we're going to have an extra mould made for the tail fin, just because it's going to be tricky to extract something this deep from inside the mould, let alone lay it up with glass fibre in the first place. We create a clay base that will act as a mould wall around the edge of the entire plane to begin creating the first half. Clay is water-based, which means it doesn't bode well to go directly in contact with resin without a barrier or a release agent. The water in the clay prevents the resin from curing properly, so normally we'd go over the clay with a PVA or similar type of glue barrier. But as with this job we're going over with silicone rubber first, and therefore not going directly onto the clay with resin, this doesn't need any sort of sealant first. The silicone rubber is poured on and built up in thicker and thicker layers before a gel coat resin and a glass fibre jacket is applied on top. The jacket on top of the silicone rubber allows the rubber to retain its shape, and the rubber makes sure all of the detail of the plane are achieved in the cast. The tabs that you can see sticking up here, as well as the wall around the outside, help us to locate the rubber properly into the fiberglass jacket and make sure it's sitting in the correct position. When the resin is cured, we trim off all the flash material and try to remove any sharp bits as much as possible so the mould's safe to handle. We add wooden battens on the back so the mould can sit flat on the tabletop and doesn't roll around for casting. Each time the rubber is removed, it's always best to put it back inside the jacket so that it lays flat and it retains the correct shape and doesn't go baggy. We begin casting by adding a gel coat layer first for a relatively smooth finish, and we're using a white gel coat for this job as the tornadoes are going to be left white for everyone to paint, so this provides a good solid base layer from the start. As we know we're going to be making quite a few of these, we're cutting fiberglass templates of all the sections of the plane to save on cutting random pieces each time we go to cast. This saves on both time and material and is a really beneficial step to take when creating production runs like this. For the planes to be mounted on the lampposts around the town, we're having metal brackets created, and so that they fit exactly the same on each plane, we've created a wooden jig here so that we know where to place the holes. All the fiberglass edges are then trimmed so they're neat against the gel coat lines, and using our secret studio made bonding agent, well, we can't give everything away, can we? We're joining the two mould halves together. We've invited Pauline down to the studio, along with her husband Mervyn, to take a look at the first batch of the tornadoes, and we showed her our own sponsored plane that we actually won at the Spitfire auction last year, now proudly displayed on our studio wall. Happy that everything's on schedule, we crack on with the next batch, which we've already started laminating, and once they're put together, we work up the seam lines around the halfway point and clean up any imperfections. This part of the job always takes a long time. Some cleanups are recurrent in each cast as they were included in the mould, and some are individual to each model. Once all the cleaning up is done, we finish everything off with a white primer of a 2K car body paint. This creates a solid blank canvas for the artwork and is suitable for outdoor use. The tornado trail's been set up to commemorate the 100th year anniversary of RAF Marham, which is a Royal Air Force station near the village of Marham in Norfolk in England. It was Pauline's ambition to get the Spitfire trail up and running, and after seeing how popular the trail was last time in the town of Kings Lynn, it was an idea that was really welcomed back for the tornadoes. To kick off the artwork, the Mayor of Kings Lynn himself began the first model, and soon all the other sponsor companies were getting onto their own designs as well. Along with the sculptures, there were 24 boards set up around the town depicting the history of RAF Marham from 1916 to 2016, and at the old Jailhouse Museum there was a Stories of Kings Lynn exhibition to go and visit as well. This year there wasn't an auction for the models, as all the sponsors said they wanted to keep hold of all their own planes so much. But donations were made to the charities, and a couple of extra planes being sold here and there to raise funds for the RAF Benevolent Fund, the British Legion and Macmillan Nurses. There were also over 300 entries to the charity fundraising competition, and other contributions from the events that you could find going on around the town that were all included in the Tornado Trail pamphlet. There was a map to navigate around Kings Lynn and hunt for all the planes, and this was enjoyed by both local families and those that visited the area to take part in the trail. There were loads of emails coming in expressing how much everyone enjoyed themselves and how much of a success this year really was. The 75th Air Squadron Cadet Training Corps also worked hard to get the event up and running. In this case, not much running involved, I don't imagine, as they're pulling a real-life tornado down the runway. Proudly led by Pauline, here she sent a testimonial on the project, so thank you very much, Mrs. Petch. please feel free to leave any comments below, as they're always appreciated, and hit the subscribe button for our latest videos. You can like Sculpture Studios on Facebook and follow @Aden Hynes on Twitter, and for more of our work, visit sculpturestudios.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching.